Good morning, grade 4. Today is March 22, 2020. Today is Sunday. Our topic for today is in your Skills Handbook 1, Lesson 1. This is in page 305 of your book. The topic is what questions do scientists ask? Most of you wants to be a scientist when I asked you before, but do you know what it takes to be a scientist? It needs a lot of work to be a scientist, and not all of us could be a scientist. Okay, it needs an expertise to be a scientist. But you could start your own way how to be a scientist. So let's start. Okay, the first thing is we need to understand that scientist is asking a question. Here, science includes inquiry or a process of asking a question. Scientists started their work by asking a question. A good question to start their research, a good question to start their experiment. Like this one, for example, a scientist studying Earths might think of a number of questions to ask. Example, if they are paleontologists. Remember, paleontologists is scientists that study fossils and rock formation from the past. So they might ask, how do islands form? Or they can ask what kinds of rock are on Earth's surface. So here the picture of how do paleontologists or scientists started to ask questions when they find materials for their study. Scientists first study what other scientists have already learned about the answers to their questions. Actually, some scientists is just continuing the study of the past scientists. Because of limited time, some scientists didn't finish their study, and some people might continue that study also. So, example for me, if I become a scientist and then I cannot finish my study because of my limitation, like example, if I pass away, if I pass away, and then probably some of my student could continue my study. So it's a good progress of continuing study. Okay, so here on question number 1, complete the chart to explain some features on this book. Okay, the heading is this one, the one that I underlined. Okay, the heading tells what the paragraph is all about in the question. The picture shows an example of the scientist searching for the answer. So here is the picture of the scientist that wants to find the answer to their question. And number 2, ask questions. What question do you think this scientist might be trying to answer? The first question that they could ask is, what is under the rocks in this area? Here you can check that they have a hammer. So they are digging some facts, they are digging some information that they want to know. What is under these rocks? Okay? That is how they ask series of questions before they start their research. We ask questions because we want to know the answer, right? Or maybe you are asking questions because you don't understand. Same also with the scientists. They ask questions because they want to find answer, or maybe they didn't figure it out yet. That's why they are asking questions. The next thing that scientists do is to investigate. Scientists do investigation to help them to find the answer to their question. An investigation is a careful way of looking something. This is a careful way of finding the answer. Scientists use process of skills in science investigation. You already use many of these skills in your daily life whenever you ask question or whenever you solve a question. For example, in investigation, part of investigation is to observe. When you observe, you use your 5 senses to observe, like this picture. If you are really interested about worms, okay, here in Saudi, it's hard to find worms in the soil, but in other places, just dig in the ground and you will find worms. Here, if you are really interested, Okay. And if you really want to feel and wants to know what is the feeling of holding a worm, you could try it. Okay. But of course, after that one, you need to wash your hand. And then if you are observing, you will ask this question and then you will use your five senses. You will ask, what do you see? Here you can write, I see worm. Okay. What do you hear? Can you hear something if you hold a worm? No, I can't hear something. What do you feel? Have you tried to hold a worm before? For me, I experienced many times. Okay. When you try to handle a worm or hold a worm, the body is cold. Okay, I will just write here because I experienced it before. The body of worm is cold and somehow feels like slimy. Okay, I know most of you knows the feeling of holding a slime. That's why I write here the word slimy because that is the most common that most of us we handle the slime before. So when you try to touch the slime, that is the same feeling when you're holding a worm. What does it taste? Of course, I didn't taste it yet. So you can write here, never try to taste. Never try to taste. But in other countries, some people are eating worms. So if they try, or if you try to taste a worm, maybe you could write here. Okay, smell. Okay, I try to smell it. So no smell at all. So no odor. I could write here no odor or odorless. Okay. So that is the feeling of holding a worms. So when you try to observe, you're using your senses. As I repeat, you use your eyes to see, you use your ear to hear, you use your skin to feel, you use your tongue to taste, and then you use your nose to smell. So that is observation. We are doing observation in our daily life. Example, if you want to observe how the lift or elevator is moving up and down, then you could ask yourself these questions when you're riding a lift. So when you really want to be a scientist, you need to practice to be observant. When you want to be observant, you always ask yourself this thing. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? What do I taste? What do I smell? Okay, so that is the first thing that the scientists do. Ask question, and then after asking a question, they observe. Next thing is when they do investigation, they do observe, and then next is they do research. Nowadays, we are so lucky because when we are doing research, we didn't go to the library. Okay, we go to internet because in the internet we have a lot of online resources or books. So we are lucky. So example of references are encyclopedias, dictionaries, books, magazines, journals, internet, and books. Okay, that is the example of the reference that we can use if we want to do the research. So scientists often write articles that appear in the scientific journal. So they write a research paper. If they prove something, they write, and then we can use that one as a reference. When we have a further question, we can just write in Google, example, what does coronavirus makes in our body? So we can just type it, and then there are many articles, videos, and other materials that you can read that could be the answer to your question. Okay? When scientists use information from the reference material, they kept track or where the information came from. So they write it. They write in their notes, okay, this example, if this video, I found this video in YouTube, or I found this video in Classera, I found this video in WhatsApp. So they they write it so that they have a record. Okay, and number 3, underline the information you would need to write down about the article. So whatever information they took, they wrote their information in their notebook or in their journal. Number 4, look at the cave in the photo. So in your book, okay, you have the picture of cave. What research might you want to do before exploring the cave? Have you been to a cave before? For me, I've tried 3 times going to a cave, and then the feeling is so weird and fun because you are not going there every day, so your feeling is weird and fun because you see new things. At the same time, inside the cave, it's cold, by the way. Okay, that is the feeling inside the cave. So how you can ask some question like this: how deep the cave is? What animals living in there? What do you need for your safety? Because usually when you go to save, you need when you go to a cave, you need a safety clothes or gear because stone might fall in your head, okay, when you go there. Now, next, the next step after doing the research is do the experiment. You do experiment to prove something. Scientists use their observation and research to come up with possible answer to their question. They design and run tests to try to confirm the answer. So when I want to prove something, I can do an experiment. The result of an experiment may match the earlier study of the previous scientist. Okay? So here in number 5, what might you ask about the rock on this page? What experiment might you do to answer the question? Here, what is the hardness of this rock? Example, some scientists found out that this rock is hard. But if you want to prove it wrong, you can do some certain experiment to prove that their findings is not true. You can do that. You can prove that the other scientist's study is wrong, actually. Okay. What is the hardness of this rock? That is the first question that you want to ask. And then how are you going to answer that one? I would compare the hardness of this rock to the other rocks. Or you can use a tools, a hammer. Okay, to prove or to test the hardness of this rock. Okay, now, next, what would you like to know about the land feature in your state or in your place? Write a question. How have land feature changed over the years? That is a possible question. As I mentioned in our previous lesson when we are tackling about fossils, I've discussed that Saudi Arabia before is not a desert. Okay, same with Kansas and other places that Saudi Arabia is filled with water before. So we have a lot of evidence about that one because when you try to look at the sands of Saudi Arabia, you can find small shells, small sea creatures. Okay, so that is a proof, according to the scientists, that Saudi Arabia is filled with water before. So, what are the other questions that you want to ask about your place? Number 7, why might some reference materials be better than the others? Some materials might have more recent information compared to the other. Okay, like example, I preferred watching YouTube compared to Clasera because I have a lot of options in YouTube. Okay, compared to Clasera. Okay, I will continue this part in the next video. See you there.